The 11th day of December. Finika kept her promise to Clipper. In the morning, she led Clipper to Pendulum's cell. "You wanted to see Pendulum," she said to Clipper. "Well, here he is. It'll be easier to keep an eye on both of you if you're together. But I'm warning you, don't go getting any ideas about trying to escape." Finika glared at her prisoners. "If you do, I'll send Spike after you. He's specially trained in hunting down nieces." And without another word or growl, Finika slammed the cell door and locked it behind her. She hurried upstairs to her vat of boiling milk, eager to see what Balto and Tandra were up to this morning. In the cell, there was much hugging as Pendulum and his nephew were reunited. "But where are your parents?" Pendulum asked. "Finika wasn't able to catch them," Clipper explained. "They probably went back to the Niece Palace to consult the Niece Handbook. Uncle Pendulum, we must escape and stop the prince." "The prince? What has he done?" Pendulum asked. He was still thinking about Balto and Tandra. "The prince is making all the palaces in the kingdom disappear, one after another. He has a magic compass the wizard made for him." "A magic compass?" "Yes, Papa and Mama say if we can borrow the compass, you'll be able to fix its magical power so the Niece Palace won't vanish." "Well, that would explain it," Pendulum said, brightening. "I wondered why all the palaces were vanishing in front of my eyes. But why does the prince want to make the palaces disappear?" "He wants to build a Christmas palace," Clipper said. "He thinks all the other palaces are old and not very interesting. And now Finika wants to find the Niece Palace and steal Niece Handbook," Clipper added. Pendulum was suddenly hungry. This was a lot of information to absorb on an empty stomach. "I must think of a plan," he said. "But things make me hungry. I haven't even had breakfast." "Try some soup," Clipper said. "Archibald made it." Pendulum made a face and took a spoonful of the cold soup. "I don't know how we're ever going to escape from this dungeon," he said. "Maybe Archibald will help us," Clipper asked. "Poor Archibald. He's the loneliest troll I've ever met. I'm sure he'd love to help us, but he's afraid of his sister." Then Clipper looked at his uncle. "I guess I didn't do too well trying to rescue you, did I? You were very brave. Don't worry. Your Mama and Papa will find an answer to our troubles in the pages of the Niece Handbook." Across the kingdom in the royal palace, Chloe was eating lunch with Miranda. "Are you still upset with the prince about the Christmas trees?" he asked. "Yes. I saw the forester arrive this morning with a cartload of spruce. The staff is decorating them now," Miranda said. "And the prince wants you to choose one over all the others, I suppose?" "Exactly. Then I'll have the rest of the trees cut into firewood. He's only interested in the best, and the best can only be one tree or one palace. It's a good thing I don't have a twin sister, Uncle Chloe. Otherwise the prince would make one of us vanish," Miranda said. Chloe began to laugh. "What a thought! Imagine 2 Mirandas. I don't think the prince would be able to handle 2 of you." The clock struck the hour, and Chloe folded his napkin. "Miranda, lunch is over. I have some thinking to do. You should go to your quarters and read blueprints, or whatever it is you architects do." Chloe took his niece by the elbow and guided her to the door. "Guards, open up." The doors opened, and Chloe gently pushed Miranda into the corridor. "But I haven't had dessert," Miranda protested. "You can have 2 tomorrow." "But Uncle—" The guard shut the door before she could finish her sentence. Chloe crossed the room, still chuckling. Imagine, 2 Mirandas. He passed his hand over one of the books in the bookshelf beside the fireplace, and the wall slid open, revealing a secret passage. Chloe lit a torch and walked along the passage. He came to a set of stairs at the end of the hallway. He made his way quickly down the staircase and entered his laboratory, lighting other torches along the way. The room was filled with everything that a good wizard should ever need. There were jars brimming with herbs and medicines. The stone walls were covered with charts of the heavens. The tables were littered with scrolls, and in the corner was a large fireplace. He threw a few extra logs on the fire to warm up the room. Then he ground some herbs in a pot of water to make some tea, and set the pot over the roaring fire. The mice that lived in the laboratory scurried across the shelves. "My little friends, I suppose you're hungry," Chloe said, and crumbled some bread between his fingers and scattered it in the corner. Chloe always fed the mice because their tails brushed away the dust from his books. It saved him the trouble of having to dust them himself. In the center of the room, on a high pedestal, stood the most important book in Chloe's collection. It was the Book of Charms. Chloe put on his reading spectacles and slowly began to turn the pages in the great book. "I may have lost my power over the prince, but there is nothing to stop me from looking for a good charm to help the nieces. Time is running out, and I must be prepared to help them when the prince pardons me. That is, if he pardons me." Chloe blew the dust off the pages as he continued to read. He studied his book of charms for the rest of that afternoon and evening, resting only to sip his wizard's tea or to throw a fresh log on the fire. As evening approached, Tandra and Balto once again stood in the burrows that ran beneath the Niece Palace. Balto had torn several pages from the niece handbook. He and Tandra had each signed their name onto a page. Balto tucked the other pages safely into his pocket. That should do the trick, he said. If we meet the trolls, they won't be able to see us because we're invisible. We still don't know how to find Troll Castle, Tandra said. There are hundreds of burrows down here, and we aren't even sure there's a path that leads to the glen. She began to tremble. Goodness, that wind is cold, she said, rubbing her shoulders. That's it, Balto shouted. That's the answer. Balto, what are you blabbling about? We'll follow the wind. All the cold winds in the kingdom come from the glen. Of course, Tandra said. It makes sense. If we follow the wind, we'll find the trolls. Balto stuck one finger into his mouth and held it up in the air, testing for the direction of the cold wind. This way, he said. We're on our way. And off they went, following the cold winds through the burrows. Archibald waited until Fanica fell asleep before he crept into the kitchen of the castle. He carefully removed the tiny Christmas tree from the cupboard and placed it on the table. It had drooped to the side again, and Archibald gave it a drink of water from Spike's bowl. The little tree shuddered and shaked until it stood up straight and tall in his pot. Spike, I think our little tree has grown since yesterday. Spike arched his head to the side to get a better view of the little tree, and began to wag his tail. It's time for your walk, Archibald said. He tucked the little Christmas tree under his arm and opened the door that led outside. Spike scampered along beside him. The air was crisp, and the stars filled the sky outside. Twinkling and sparkling all over the kingdom the stars were. Archibald came to a clearing in the forest and scooped some earth to the side. He placed the little tree in the ground and packed dirt around it. Look, Spike, Archibald shouted, pointing to the sky. A shooting star! They both gazed at the sky and watched as the pink tail crossed the heavens. I better make a wish, Archibald said, closing his eyes. I wish that my little Christmas tree will grow strong and tall. Spike gave a little bark, and Archibald opened his eyes, and the sky exploded into color. The sky is filled with shooting stars, Archibald shouted. He lay back in the snow. A sky full of shooting stars means a sky is full of wishes. Archibald began to point at the shooting stars as they danced across the night sky. I wish that Fanica would free Pendulum and Clipper, he said to one. I wish the nieces will take me to the niece's palace, he said, pointing to another. And I wish to celebrate Christmas with all my new friends and all my old friends. He patted Spike on the head. I'm going to keep my eyes open all night and make a wish on every shooting star I see, Archibald said, yawning. But only after a few minutes he was fast asleep, with Spike curled beside him. And as he slept, the little Christmas tree, nourished on the power of the moonbeams and good wishes, grew another foot. And slowly, as the evening wore on, the stars turned out their lights and went to bed. Until tomorrow, good night.